So, we have just arrived in West Palm Beach at the convention centre. We're registering right now. How exciting is this? It's the start of a journey.
Thank you.
You are in for a treat.
Oh, absolutely.
You're going to write your name on it. You have a chance to win a Harley Davidson.
What?
And lots of other cool prizes.
That's crazy. We got our books. I'll have a little run over what's in this book shortly. First name, last name, and my group number. I've been assigned group number D8. Now, I don't know exactly what they're going to do with this, but if it's anything like business mastery, sometimes they randomly pick out stuff to bring people on the stage. So,
first name, last name, and your team name?
Yeah.
You guys are running. You guys are now in the running for a toaster. We were giving away Bitcoin earlier, but we ran out.
You were giving away Bitcoin? How many Bitcoins did you give away?
1,700. But we ran out, so now we all have one as a toaster.
He's joking. I bought that as well. Registration complete. Let's get out of here, get to the hotel, get checked in. Right. As you guys know, I'm doing Date with Destiny. It kicks off tomorrow and it lasts it starts tomorrow Tuesday and it finishes on Sunday. It's like an all-day thing every day. It starts on like 9-10 a.m. and it finishes at midnight every day, roughly. And to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure exactly what it's going to involve or what I'm going to get out of it. But all I know is that the experiences that I've had with Tony Robbins so far have just been absolutely game-changing. And, you know, Date with Destiny is supposed to be the real sort of big one, the really, really deep one, which kind of gets down into, you know, really real big stuff in relationships and life, limiting beliefs, stuff that's holding you back, and you really kind of deal with some like deep stuff. So we just registered, and this is the little book thing that you get. The ultimate journey for those who demand the most out of life. Obviously, over the next 6 days, we're gonna work through this book. I get the sense that this is basically a real deep dive into all areas of life, like what I want out of life, things which are kind of getting in the way, what's working for me in life, what's not working, how to free myself. I don't necessarily have a specific outcome for it. Well, the outcome that I have usually is just to explore, learn new things, you know, make the most out of life. But beyond that, all I kind of really have to believe is that I'm gonna get something amazing out of it, the program, whatever it may be, and that's usually enough for me to sign up. So I started doing stuff with Tony Robbins back in April, UPW, because Nancy had a spare ticket, so she invited me to come to UPW with her. And the single biggest thing that I got out of UPW was, there were lots of things, but the single biggest thing was the ability to manage state. You know, and I had been in a position before where, you know, I was very, very volatile. With my psychological state, and the state management techniques that I learned at UPW basically enabled me to every day put myself in a very, very positive, resourceful state. And those of you guys, you know, who watch some of my vlogs can see sometimes when I do my state routines. And all I'm doing when I do those routines is a whole collection of different techniques whereby I put myself into a resourceful state. So the emotions and feelings that I have when I'm like super switched on, super happy, super successful, they all come out and it affects my being, my confidence, and I can sort of live in that state. And it also means that when, you know, negative, you know, things or challenging situations arise, I have the ability to insulate myself and keep myself in a very effective state. I mean, I learned all of that at UPW. And then after UPW, you know, I did Business Mastery, which I've talked about separately, and Date with Destiny is like the big one, which is all deep dive personal stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm a little bit nervous, actually, for a number of reasons. So maybe this is a separate topic, but literally just today, by perhaps coincidence or whatever the forces are at play in the world, I finished my Kaiflow course. There's a lot of things which Kaiflow does, but actually there was only really one thing that really stuck out, and it was in the coaching sessions that I had with my coach. And in the early sessions of Kaiflow, we looked at limiting beliefs, and they started prior to Kaiflow by asking me a whole bunch of questions, simple questions, and I just had to write whatever came up. And when my coach went through my pages and pages of writing, she could see my patterns of language, and she could start to identify some limiting beliefs that I had about myself, and she could very much see a theme, a theme of, I'm not good enough, a theme of a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-acceptance, a lack of self-love. And so I could see it. I was kind of on board with it, more so intellectually rather than really feeling it. So I went with it, and I said, fine, I can see that there's a limiting belief here over self-worth. And the way we stated it was actually quite extreme. The limiting belief was I am worthless. And intellectually I was going with it, and I didn't really feel it or understand it, deep down, but I went with it. And actually, the 6 or 8 weeks of Kaiflow, in the coaching context, I'm usually very open. But the period during Kaiflow was probably some of the most challenging coaching I've ever had. And I remember saying to, people in my life, Nancy and Harriet, that, I'm not enjoying the coaching. I'm putting up a lot of resistance to the coaching. My coach isn't any good. And I was blaming the coach. I was blaming the Kaiflow program. What I started to realize after a couple of weeks was that even before, when I got on the coaching calls, even before anything was said, I could have been in a perfectly great state beforehand. Even before anything was said on those calls, immediately I could feel like this resistance and this guard coming up from within me. And it was just that feeling of tension and discomfort, in my chest. And I started to realize that the resistance I was feeling was because I felt like when I was getting on those calls, I was actually coming face to face with myself, looking at myself in the mirror or something like that. And you know what? It was really scary. It was really scary. It's such a feeling of insecurity and fear that was there within me. And as I started to look and progress through it, I could really see that limiting belief was true. I am worthless. And now what do I mean? But it doesn't mean I walk around thinking, oh, I'm worthless and all this kind of stuff. But what it meant was I wasn't giving myself love, acceptance, appreciation, gratitude. Instead, I was looking for it externally. And I saw that through Kaiflow. And by externally, I mean, looking for validation from others. If I do something, I would want someone to acknowledge that or tell me, that's awesome, Shaz, or give me some sort of respect or something as a means of me getting my self-worth. So my feeling of self-worth was attached to the way other people, would respond to me, which is, it's great if everyone is saying, yeah, Shaz, you're awesome, this, that, or well done, good job, or, things are going my way. But what happens when things, don't go my way? Or what happens when people do not give appreciation and gratitude? Because, most people don't go around giving appreciation and gratitude. It's one of the very sad facts of the world in which we live. And then when I, like many people, was attaching my sense of self-worth to, external validation, it means that when I don't get it, I don't feel good. I don't feel love. I don't feel accepted. And, this is especially true in if we just look at all the social media out there and whatnot, people post their stuff and they're checking to see how many likes and comments they've got. And then when they get their likes and comments, they take that as, acceptance, appreciation. And it does give you a little boost and feel good. And there's nothing wrong with feeling good about things like that. But if that is your source of feeling accepted and feeling self-worth and feeling love, then something's very, very wrong. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was looking for validation either from my girlfriend or externally from social media or from my friends or from people in work, or wanting to, build bigger and bigger towers so I could get, acceptance and respect in a broader business context. And then I just started to see that that's what my life was about. And it was just a complete absence of me giving myself any love and acceptance. And when I saw that was a really, it represented a massive, massive shift. All of a sudden, my driving factors or how I had been getting driven in the past made sense. And then I started to explore, okay, well, what is, self-gratitude, self-love? And And I'm still on that journey now. I mean, the realization has made a massive, massive shift in the way I'm being and the way I'm behaving towards myself. But the things I'm doing now, like every morning in my morning routines, I sit inside of gratitude and self-love and self-acceptance for a while. So simple things like, first of all, in the morning when I wake up, I spend 10-15 minutes or however long just writing and emptying my head in my book or diary. There's no direction to it. I'm just writing, and that empties myself, and I start to notice patterns in my thoughts, which gives me a greater awareness of myself and a greater, I'm taking time just to be with myself in those moments. And as part of my morning routines, I sit inside of gratitude, right? I look at 3, 4, 5 things which I can be grateful for, and I just say them to myself and remind myself of them, get inside of the emotions. I forgive myself for 3, 4 things, whatever comes up. I would say, Shaz, I forgive you for, and then whatever comes up. Sometimes it might be something really silly, like being late to a meeting. Sometimes it might be something deep, like from my childhood where I did something crazy, or whatever it needs to be. Things just start to come up. And then over time, I feel a greater connection with myself, a greater authenticity, a greater sense of love and understanding of who I am. And I tell myself, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. There's a great book by Naval Ravikant on that particular, or is it Naval or Kamal Ravikant on that particular topic? And it's just about really loving yourself and accepting yourself for who you are. And by doing that, I've started to develop this deep, deep sense of inner peace, inner confidence, inner drive, inner stability. And when you develop that sense, I become independent of what the situation is or what people say to me. And there was a really, really, really crazy thing that happened just a couple of nights ago. I was in Miami with Nancy. It was about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't drink, and so I wasn't drunk or anything like that. I was in McDonald's after a big party night out. We were having a little bit of a late night, cheeky late night feast at McDonald's, waiting in line for our food, and there's this drunk guy there with his girlfriend. And for whatever reason, the guy just starts making racist comments directed towards me and Nancy. He was like a, white American guy, and there's me, Indian descent, and Nancy, Chinese, and he was starting making comments related to that kind of stuff. No, I was just ignoring him. I had my back kind of turned to him anyway. I didn't respond. I just ignored him. And then, Nancy started, wanting to respond to him and kind of said something to him. And I just said, look, just leave it. Okay, that's him. Let him be who he is for the moment. He doesn't need to affect us. Now, a while ago, like as recently as a few months ago or 6 months ago or something, I would literally, if the guy kept on going, I would literally end up in a confrontation with him. I'd end up, meeting his resistance with my resistance. Shouting would end up happening. I'd insult him and try and, outdo him on comments or something like that. And inevitably, I might even end up in a fist fight or something like that. That's happened to me on a number of occasions. He kept on going. We weren't participating. He stopped for a little bit. His girlfriend was telling him to stop and stop being silly. And then he kept on saying more and more and more. And then in that moment, I was looking at myself and I could feel this trigger coming in. And I'm just aware that, I just realized for myself that for whatever reason, this guy, I don't know, maybe he's experienced pain in his life. And I find that when people make expressions of negativity, it's to do with pain and suffering and all this kind of stuff. I just gave my stuff to Nancy that I was holding. I said, Nancy, just hold this. I turned around. And I was really scared at this moment. I was like, I didn't know, I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I just walked right up to this guy, right directly up to him. And I looked him in the eyes, and he wasn't saying anything at this point. I actually put my arms around him and I gave him just a hug. And I could feel the trigger and the pain that it was causing in me, right? Both the pain because it reminds me of, racist stuff that I've experienced when I was a kid, but then also just the resistance and pain that you get if someone's saying something not nice to you. And I've had, questions over my self-worth in the past. It creates pain and it creates triggers, right? So with that pain, I could authentically connect with my own pain. And I understand that, he must have his own pain and suffering in his life for him to have such an expression of negativity. So I put my arms around him and I gave him a hug and I said to him, whatever pain you have experienced in your life, I hope that you find peace. And that's all I said. But I said it from a place of real like love and authenticity, because I know what pain feels like. We all know what pain feels like. I felt pain in that moment, and I don't like the feeling of pain. So I could genuinely say to him, I hope that you find peace, because I wouldn't wish anyone to feel that kind of pain. And you know what? He just stopped. He just stopped and stared at me. He was speechless. And then I left him, and then a few moments later he came up to me and he started apologizing profusely. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe I said those things, I'm so sorry, and he kept on apologizing and apologizing. And you know, that was it, you know, a little exchange, but it was just like a total diffusion. But where did that come from? That literally came from this me no longer associating my self-worth with anyone else, right? Or any external factor. It comes from within. Now, you know, I'm not going to pretend I've turned one switch off and turned another one on, but I've got that awareness, and that shift in awareness gives me the ability to just say, you know what? That's an external factor, and I'm independent of that. And then I can behave independently and with freedom to that situation. And that's what I did. And I used my understanding of human compassion to actually diffuse the situation. Now, I just got that out of Kaiflow, which is the course I just completed. I'm talking about Date with Destiny right now. But Date with Destiny is about this type of stuff. I understand that we're going to be deep diving. We're going to be looking at areas in our life where things are holding us back, or things, you know, where we haven't got clarity, gaining clarity, where we're not authentically connected, getting authentically connected. And so, again, I don't know what I'm going to get out of Date with Destiny, but I've had enough other experiences of self-development to know that if I just get one thing out of Date with Destiny, one thing which is around connecting with myself, which is around removing, you know, any barriers to performance, which is around enabling me to connect more authentically with other people, which is around, you know, having a better and more amazing relationship with my girlfriend, you know, being able to unlock and experience real, true, deep, connected love in a way that it becomes truly empowering. You know, any and all of these things are what drive me to want to do Date with Destiny. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Date with Destiny, it's all about to kick off. Whilst we're here, let's just have a quick other look what we've got in the goodie bag. We've got a copy of Unshakable, Tony Robbins. I've already read this book, or I listened to the audio book. Now I've got another copy. Has it been signed? No, clearly hasn't been signed. But maybe if I meet Tony, I'll get him to sign it. What else is in here? Just some other little information things. Other products. Oh, and here we go. This is what I really care about. My Date with Destiny badge. Yeah, and I've got my little lanyard as well to connect that all together. And I'm looking forward to it. Nancy and I both upgraded our tickets to Diamond, which means that we get to sit at the front, closest to Tony, eh? So we can really be right there in the action. So that's it. That is it. Tony Robbins, Date with Destiny, Florida 2017. It's about to kick off tomorrow. That is my little pre-message. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll soon find out. I'm super excited to get started.